Welcome to the crypto trading channel. My name is Stu. What a beautiful little pump from Bitcoin earlier today, hitting my 70K price target outline on Saturday's stream. I personally still have my big concerns about the mid to long-term trend of Bitcoin and still don't think this rally is overly worth celebrating quite yet. However, it's great to see signs of life, and no matter which way we go in the long term, there's still been plenty of opportunities both directions in this recent crazy volatility in this market. So if you're excited about this move and you appreciate these live streams and market updates, do me a favor and smash up the like button, you guys. Yeah, I mean, like I said, looking at the 4 hour actually is where I was pointing out that we have this potential resistance basically right around 70K from my Oracle Pro Plus indicator from Chart Prime. And notice that we basically tested the top of that absolutely perfectly. Now, to be fair, it's absolutely possible that we end up breaking this. There's a couple things that I want to draw your attention to very shortly here. But just something to be cautious of, you guys, is that we are, in fact, at resistance again, right? Not saying that we can't break out. I do have a bit of a long open myself. But I have taken profits on 60% of it. I still have 40% running just in case that we keep running to the upside basically. But yeah, just basically as we get to these resistance levels, it's always worth being a little bit cautious, you guys. And yeah, just kind of looking at the 5 minute, we just had a very typical STUBER fib setup down here. You know, we actually had two of them back to back. I never caught the first one. I was sleeping. The second one I caught. I tried to keep the Telegram up to date with that one. I have been in and out of service the last couple of days, and that that message actually never sent, as well as my second order near the 886 never did end up basically applying either. The limit order never did go through. So unfortunately, it is what it is. Would have brought my average entry down very slightly, but whatever, I can't really complain. But yeah, like I said, just a typical STUBER fib pullback where we did break this little downtrend. We broke a little bit of structure back here, and that would have actually given us a STUBER fib right here, first of all, where we would have came back down to this level here, and that one very much so played out as well. But since that, we ended up setting a new high. So we now have a refreshed range, but this is still basically our bullish pivot. Came back down, hit the 886 absolutely perfectly, and absolutely took off from there. Now, as far as a typical STUBER fib setup goes, yeah, it played out bullishly the way I would have expected. However, it happened a lot more aggressively, but that's the exact reason, guys, why I say all the time that, yeah, I set, as soon as I enter a trade, I basically set some take profits. I set my stop loss. I set everything so that at least half of my position is going to lock in profits if it moves. And from there, I ended up taking a little more profits up here. But yeah, basically just that's why I love to keep part of my positions open when I get into some sort of a scalp position, right? I had no idea that this exact move was going to happen right to that 70K level. It just happened to play out very quickly there. So whatever, I won't complain. The quicker the profits, the better, in my opinion. Where do we go from here? I have a little bit of mixed feelings right now. For one, you guys know I'm not a fundamental person, and there's probably a lot of people looking at fundamentals recently, but you guys know that I purposely ignore fundamentals, and today is going to be a lesson on that. And guys, for those of you guys who do just want to look at the charts for what they are and actually trade the charts for what they are, rather than looking for that hopium, those fundamentals, and trying to come to conclusions based on that. You just want to see way more examples of how I'm viewing market structure in general, some of my trade setups, some of my strategies, warnings, and so on. Be sure to scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the description down below to gain access to my private Telegram, you guys. But yeah, that being said, as we stand right now, I mean, we have broke the 5-minute uptrend finally. This would have been our last. This was our higher high. This was our confirmed higher low. So technically, we have lost that uptrend. Now, being there's so much momentum, I mean, it's risky fighting this momentum, but yeah, if we end up coming up to these resistance levels, obviously be careful, just because we do have that break in structure that could be an early warning sign that we're going to go right back down. I really would not be all too surprised if we do see this turn into a bit of a BART pattern and go right back down, even if it's going to remain bullish and we just get a bigger fib pull basically from that same level. It's very possible we do something like this, get our little BART, see our rejection, and come back down and retest support. It's absolutely a possibility. And if that does happen, I'm always more interested in being a buyer at support, just like in a case like this, rather than shorting into support, just like right now, rather than getting into longs thinking that we're bullish now after the pump. It's more so that I am locking in profits on the long position that I have running. So I still think it's possible that we see lower prices, just because the 4-hour downtrend has not broke. Even if we break this indicator, you guys know I've been talking about this for a long time now. The 4-hour lower high on the trend is actually way up at 77K, and the daily lower high is actually up even a little bit higher at about 79.4K. And then if we zoom out to the weekly, then it's all the way up around 98K. So basically, no matter how we look at it, there is just a lot of resistance above us. However, it is what it is. Right now, the trend is looking quite strong. It's great to see the market reacting so well when there's such bearish news out there, right? And guys, that brings me to that lesson, right? Full disclosure, I was leaning bearish, and especially with war escalations, I'm just like anybody else thinking that, hey, this is bad. This could be very bad for the markets. We're going to have to see how the market opens on Monday. It could be absolute bloodshed. However, guys, price action and charts predict headlines, not the other way around. Okay. And now I'm not saying that fundamentals don't matter. Yes, fundamentals absolutely do matter, and they will move the price. However, anytime you are going to get information about those fundamentals, do not think that you are one of the early receivers of that information. And it's very possible that it's already played out, right? So you guys know that I say it all the time. I trade charts, not tweets, not headlines, none of that sort of stuff. And today was a perfect example, as even though I was leaning bearish, it looked weak. As we test support, it always looks weak. But as always, I would just rather be a buyer at support. So I was not bullish when I took this. It was just a typical STUBER fib trade setup, basically. So basically, the lesson here is, if the fundamentals matter, because here's the thing, over the last couple of days, you guys have probably noticed on social media, if you've been following along with the whole Iran war escalations and that sort of thing, you guys, is that people were coming to conclusions on both sides of the scenario, right? People were saying that, oh, this is very bad for the market. When the market's open, it's going to be complete chaos, going to be complete carnage, a total bloodshed sell-off kind of a thing. And then other people saying that, well, no, the move has likely already happened. We didn't actually get rejected very much on such bearish news, so we're actually bullish. That's the thing, guys, is any scenario can be looked at from either side of the coin, basically. And if the fundamentals are going to matter for the price, you will see that structure. If the whole war escalation was going to be bullish, which it ended up being, well, we got a bullish setup and then it continued to the upside, right? Whereas if we would have started just breaking support levels and just absolutely nuking, then, people would have been saying, okay, it's because of that. So no matter which way the market went today, people were going to say it's because of the fundamentals. So how do you play that, right? You just wait for the charts to prove the structure. And if the chart structure actually lines up with your theories about the fundamentals, that's where they can be taken a little more serious, right? So that's why I purposely avoid the news. I avoid announcements, especially not so much that I'm totally oblivious to them, but when I'm looking at actually taking trade setups, it's such a bad way to cloud your judgment if you're trying to analyze the whole economy and how it's going to be affected by certain global events, right? It's so much easier to make a mistake analyzing the entire global economy than it is to misanalyze a few lines and Fibonacci's, basically, right? So if you think that analyzing the entire economy is easier than a single chart like this, then, well, I mean, I guess you do you, right? Everyone has their own strategies, but yeah. So far, like I said, nice to see these signs of life. Let's go back to the 4 hour here. Like I said, we do have that potential resistance. What is the 3D trend showing? So notice that we did break the resistance on this indicator. So at this point, I would expect it to flip bullish. You can see it's turning blue down here a little bit. So even if we end up dropping from here, there's a good chance that we see some sort of support. We also have this diagonal trend line, which although it did have this one fake out, that makes it not as clean as I would like, but we do at least have a very well respected trend line, right? Even these wicks here, and even after our little fake out, we still continued respecting it. So at this point, the fact that we broke that, yeah, at least it's a good sign for the market, in my opinion, right? And if we even look at our very immediate, because you guys know that we have bounced off a couple of my purple boxes, right? First, we had the fib pull from here to here, where we ended up testing the 786 absolutely perfectly, getting a nice, well, basically a Stuber fib play, even though it wasn't technically one, but support is still support. But here we did have a smaller Stuber fib. The fact that we had this low, lower low, confirmed lower high, we broke that, came back, tested the fib pocket perfectly, and we have obviously hit a couple of those targets since then. So once again, there's absolutely a chance that the bullish move has already played out. I don't want to completely rule out the bulls yet, but it is something worth mentioning. If we start to see some sort of a correction here, let's just look at from where we got our most recent pivot here, right? Because if we're really micro-analyzing here, where did we lose this little, or rather break this little downtrend, right? This would have been the most immediate one, low, lower, low, lower, high, ended up breaking that, right? So at this point, we have another higher, we have a high there, confirming this as our pivot, and we have set a higher high. Therefore, the lowest point between these two, this is now our confirmed higher low on the immediate trend. So not the whole trend, right? I mean, I've been talking about that 77K level for such a long time now. Until we break that, the trend is what it is. Still bearish until we break that, basically. But as far as zooming into the smaller ranges inside the bigger range, if this is our most recent pivot, now at this point, our micro high or low on the trend is basically right here, right around 65K. And like I said, that's just because here we have our high and we have a slightly higher high. There's our confirmed higher low, the lowest point between the two. So basically at this point, if we do pull back, I would want to see us end up holding this yellow line as support right around 65K. If we lose that, then we risk the basically coming down and retesting our major support levels. And if we lose those, I mean, well, we're just going to have to see what the price structure starts doing from there. If, however, we don't get that pullback, to watch for things on the opposite side of things, if we take out this high, right? If the price ends up doing something like that, we now have another higher high, and that would confirm our lowest point between the two as a confirmed higher low. But at this point, I'm not willing to confirm that as my higher low just because we haven't set that higher high yet. But just kind of something to watch for moving forward into the evening, and even tomorrow. I guess we'll have to see because it's a 4 hour. It could take a while for any of these moves to play out, right? So, but yeah, on the 4 hour, as long as we're above 65K, then this trend is still looking pretty darn good to me at this point. 5 minute, yeah, we'll see. Like I said, be cautious of this resistance up around 69.7K all the way up to about 70.4K. That's all fair game for resistance on the 5 minute, in my opinion. Guys, so as I was saying, you know, price action and charts predict headlines, not the other way around, as much as everybody loves to try and trade it the opposite way, right? But it just is what it is. But something way more important than headlines and fundamentals as far as actual trading, rather, obviously investing, yeah, the very different fundamentals absolutely come into play a lot more aggressively. But when it comes to actually trading, something that's way more important than headlines and fundamentals, in my opinion, is liquidity. And you guys know I love bringing up the the MDX long short retail traders indicator here. Now, just notice what happened, guys. And here's a perfectly laid out example of why that is the case. Because just look at this. This indicator shows it very clearly that with the fear of war escalations, everybody tried to play that fundamental, right? Look how the retail shorts just absolutely exploded last night. And that liquidity provides, well, or those retail traders that start building those shorts aggressively like that basically provide liquidity for the market makers to do the opposite, right? So at this point, we're at a very interesting point. I mean, with this indicator, if it does end up getting across and the shorts end up being the majority, that is recipe for a sustainable uptrend, in my opinion. But we're going to have to see, right? I mean, back here, we got a very, just kind of more of a kiss than a cross, but it was a very brief cross there. So, but I mean, if we can actually see the retail shorts climb and actually hold as the majority, just like what we've done here, where longs were the majority, and notice that we had that nasty downtrend ever since October, basically. So it's not so much anything crazy was happening fundamentally, but as long as retail traders are willing to long the dip and provide that liquidity to the market makers, we just continue to the downside, right? So if we see these retail traders, basically, if we see this indicator take a hard reversal and retail traders start FOMO longing into this little pump, then in that case, in my opinion, that's where we would see a nasty rejection. But as long as these shorts keep climbing, as long as people think that this is a suckers rally and the fundamentals are too bearish, therefore we can't go any higher, and they continue building those shorts, that is just recipe for a nice sustained rally. And in that case, I will start to be more open to the idea that we could go significantly higher. But at this point, we're just kind of at a level to be cautious at, in my opinion. But something worth paying attention to there, if you ask me. Just gonna catch up on the chat here. Stu for the W. Stubers are king. Stubers are they're a very special trade setup. Honestly, I mean, that's why most of my trades are based around that trade strategy. They just call out such beautiful bull traps and bear traps, right? Just beautiful levels. Not that they're going to work out every time, but at least rather than FOMOing into breakouts, rather than longing into resistance and shorting into support, like most people decide to do, at least it helps you keep a level head with that sort of thing, right? Super mega micro Stuber long here on the 5 minute. I don't really see one yet. Well, maybe, I guess if you're talking something like this, if we pull a fib from down here, in that case, I would say, yeah, it's possible. If you are talking about now, that technically it's very slightly higher. I'll give you that. If that's what you're talking about and you're looking for a fib pull, something like this, yeah, it's possible, but that's getting very micro, and I don't know. That's just really going for a very small range inside this range. Since the downtrend started right here, and I mean, basically this would be where we ended up breaking the downtrend, right? Just because this would have been our low, and we set a lower low, confirmed lower high. We broke that. So at that point, I would more so like to use this as a bullish pivot point, even for a very small Fibonacci pullback kind of a thing. But yeah, it's possible. But being we have this weakness on the 5 minute, just be a little bit cautious right now. I'm still holding on to a chunk of my long because I think it's possible we go a lot higher, but definitely taking profits along the way. I'll probably close another 10% off that guy fairly soon. Do I think finance courses will teach Stubers in 2045? If that happens, that would just be so funny. I mean, I'm open to the idea. Maybe they will. Who knows? Maybe my biggest fan. Well, I appreciate it if that's true. Thank you. And guys, that goes for all of you. We have about 20 people watching right now. So thank you all so much for being here with me once again. Just really trying to be the voice of reason. So if you guys do appreciate that, not getting too excitable over these charts, I've been just keeping a level head, looking at the charts for what they are rather than hoping for those lottery tickets, and not trying to spread FUD, also not trying to spread hopium, right? Just trying to look at things one range at a time, kind of a thing, and look at possible scenarios and trying to prepare for anything. Because if there's one thing we need to do as traders, it's basically be willing to be wrong. That's one of the most important things you can learn as a trader. If you are not willing to be wrong, your risk management is going to be absolute shit. Whereas if you, like I myself, when I enter a position, I basically look at it as, hey, there's a good chance I'm going to be wrong and I'm going to lose this trade. And therefore I am going, that just kind of helps me keep a level head and keep that risk management proper, and, keeping position sizing reasonable and stuff like that, obviously. So if you guys do appreciate that, again, just do me a favor, hit that like button. And for those of you guys interested in trading charts for what they are rather than those hopium and fundamentals, be sure to subscribe to the channel as well, because here we like to trade the charts that we actually have in front of us rather than charts that we hope appear a few months down the road, basically. If I come to Europe or the UK, I will let you know, good sir. I've got your info. I can find you. But yeah, guys, that's about kind of what I'm looking at on Bitcoin. Like I said, I do see reasons for either scenario. I don't want to get too excited from the bullish side of things yet, just because I think the bulls have so much work to do to prove that there's any actually staying strength from the bulls. But like I said, if retail shorts continue to blow up to the upside, and we kind of see this cross here, and we see, basically just retail shorts being the majority in the market and holding strong like that, that's where I'm going to start to get excited and think that, okay, well, now maybe we can actually have some sort of an alt season, or just, some sort of a sustainable rally whatsoever, right? Until that happens, longs, although it's getting very close, we're very close to 50-50 split right here rather than being the typical 80% long. So, I mean, it is possible that we see this cross eventually. I just don't want to get my hopes up too premature here. So, am I taking the short at 70K? You know what? I will ladder into a hedge short. So I am very willing to take a loss on this, but yeah, I'm going to ladder in rather than all four. I'm basically going to ladder into 3, basically something like this. That would help pull my average entry up, basically closer to double top territory. And that way my loss is very tight and very controlled if it happens there. And at that point, my long would just continue taking off. So at this point, it's not so much that I'm bearish and looking for a short from a bearish perspective, but rather than taking more profits on my long right now, I think that's what I'll do instead, is I'll just take a hedge short if we get up to the 786, basically 69.7K. And then, if it gets the reversal and we nuke to the downside, then I'm covered. And if we end up blasting through to the upside, then I will cut that short very quickly and let the longs take over, basically, once again. Hello. Welcome back, my friend, Mr. Nuno. I don't know what you actually go by. That's just the first few letters and how I recognize you in the chats. But guys, anyways, I think that's about all I really wanted to go over today. I just wanted to kind of try and bring some reason into the markets, because I know a lot of people, especially with everything happening fundamentally and across the world right now, there's a lot of uncertainty there, and a lot of people probably getting wrecked in trading who are just wondering, well, how the hell does this make sense? How would this happen when there's war going on, and so on? So I just wanted to be kind of that voice of reason and just looking at the charts for what they are. So one last time, if you do appreciate these market updates and, some of my warnings and setups and that sort of thing, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And just as a reminder for those of you interested in joining my private Telegram channel, be sure to scan the QR code or click the link in the description down below. And yeah, with that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Thank you so much for watching once again. Peace out.